In the Wild West, death could walk on two legs, wear a badge, or smile across a poker table. 10 men rode into legend, some for justice, some for money, and some because they just loved the sound of a hammer cocking back. They were lawmen. Outlaws, hired killers. One was born a slave, one was a sick dentist, one never drank, never smoked, but killed for cash. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will decide who was the deadliest gunfighter of the Wild West. If you love the Wild West, gunfighters, and true crime history, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's ride. Asterisk night, thunder in the distance. A tall, dark rider moves along a narrow trail, hat low, eyes sharp. His name is Bass Reeves. 2. Many outlaws, he is not just a man. He is a shadow that carries a badge and never seems to miss. Bass Reeves is born into slavery in 1838. He comes into a world where his life is not his own, where orders and whips try to control every step. He grows up working on land in the American South, watching white men ride horses with guns on their hips while he is treated as property. But even as a boy, Bass is strong. He is tall, powerful, and very smart. He listens more than he talks. He studies faces. He remembers names. He learns how people move when they lie and how they stand when they are scared. When the Civil War comes, everything turns wild and bloody. Bass is taken with his enslavers, forced to serve, but in the confusion of war, a chance appears. Bass breaks away. He rides into the lands called Indian Territory, far from the plantation, far from the chains that tried to bind his life forever. In this rough, dangerous land, Bass must learn fast or die. He lives with native tribes. He learns their languages, their ways, their hunting skills. He becomes a quiet expert at tracking someone through deep brush, reading the ground like a book. A broken twig, a footprint in mud, a horseshoe mark, a bit of ash from a dead fire. Years pass. The war ends. Slavery ends. Bass Reeves is now a free man. But the frontier is full of men who think freedom means they can rob, kill, and run. Soon, one judge in Fort Smith, Arkansas, becomes famous for trying to bring order to this wild place. His name is Judge Isaac Parker, called a hanging judge by many. To enforce the law in Indian Territory, he needs strong, brave deputiesmen who will ride into danger again and again, often alone. Bass Reeves is the perfect choice. When Bass Reeves pins on the silver Deputy U.S. Marshal badge, something changes. A man who was once counted as property now carries the power of the law. He does not take that lightly. He cannot read or write, but that never stops him. Other officers read him the arrest warrants. He listens closely, memorizes every name, every description, every detail. Once he hears it, he does not forget. Bass rides out alone or with a small posse into dangerous land. Indian Territory is full of hideouts, forests, and rough towns. Outlaws hide in shacks, canyons, and camps, thinking the law will never find them. But Bass Reeves has patience. He watches heaves. He uses disguises. Sometimes he dresses like a farmer, with old clothes and a broken wagon. Other times he acts like a lost wanderer, begging for food. He knocks on doors, smiles, speaks like a harmless stranger. When outlaws invite him in, thinking they are safe, he waits for the perfect moment. Then his voice changes, his back straightens. He pulls out his badge and his gun at the same time, and the outlaw realizes too late. Marshal Bass Reeves is standing in his kitchen. Over the years, Bass arrests hundreds, some say thousands, of men and women. Some give up when they see his calm eyes and steady hands. Others go for their guns. Bass Reeves is a deadly shot. He keeps both pistols clean and ready. When a fight breaks out, he does not shout or panic. He moves smooth and quick, like he's done this many times before because he has. Bullets fly. Dust jumps from the ground. When the smoke clears, Bass is often the only man still standing. Yet, despite all the blood and danger, Bass is not a cruel man. He is known as polite and quiet when off duty. He treats most people with respect, no matter their color or background. He often prays. He holds on to faith. At home, he is a husband and father. He knows the faces that wait for him when he rides back into town. A tired, loving wife and children who hope he comes back alive. Each time he leaves, there's a chance he will not return. He has to choose, over and over again, between staying safe with his family or riding back into danger to protect other families he will never meet. His work is not easy on his soul. He arrests friends. He sometimes must bring in people he once knew as boys. The law does not care about old memories. Bass Reeves serves that law with a heavy but honest heart. There is one story where he must help arrest his own son, accused of murder. Bass does not walk away from the job. He does what duty demands, even though it cuts deep inside him. This choice shows the kind of man he is. A man who believes that justice must be the same for everyone, even when it hurts most. On dusty roads, in small wooden courtrooms, and in the minds of outlaws across the frontier, the name Bass Reeves grows. Some whisper it with fear, some speak it with respect. To many, he is proof that courage and character matter more than skin color, birth, or old chains. Bass Reeves rides for decades, facing danger that would break most men. He does not become rich. He does not become a famous movie star. His time is long before that, but he becomes something far greater, a living symbol that a man born in bondage can rise to become a guardian of the law. A shadow of justice moving through the wild land, carrying a badge, 2 guns, and a heart that tries, every day, to do what is right. In the story of the Wild West, many gunfighters are praised for how many men they killed. Bass Reeves stands apart. He is remembered not just for his skill with a gun, but for the thousands he brought in alive, and for the simple, powerful fact that he used his deadly talent not for greed, or hate, or revenge, but for justice. Night air hangs heavy in the smoky saloon. Cards slide across a rough wooden table. Men laugh, curse, slam down coin. In the middle of it all sits a thin man with pale skin and sharp eyes. He coughs into a bloody handkerchief, then smiles like, "Nothing is wrong. This is Doc Holliday." A man who knows he is dying and decides to live like every day might be his last. Doc Holliday is born in Georgia in 1851. As a boy, he is quiet, serious, and smart. His family wants a good life for him, not the wild chaos of the frontier. He studies hard and becomes a dentist. Dr. John Henry Holliday, a proper name, a respectable job. For a short time, life looks normal. He cleans teeth, he fills cavities, he wears clean clothes and works in bright rooms, not dark saloons. But then, the cough begins. At first it is small, a little tickle in his throat. Then, it grows. He starts coughing up blood. Doctors tell him he has tuberculosis, a lung disease that kills many people. They tell him he may not live long. They tell him to move west, where the air is dry. Maybe he can breathe easier. Maybe he can buy a little more time. So Doc Holliday leaves his old life behind. The clean office, the safe routine. He steps onto the long road west and walks straight into the heart of the Wild West. In the frontier towns, people do not need a dentist very often, but they always need gamblers. They need card players, men who know how to read faces and stay calm under pressure. Doc finds a new talent at the card table. He has sharp eyes. He can see when a man is nervous, when he is bluffing, when he is about to cheat. Doc's hands are fast and graceful. He can slip cards, handle chips, and, when needed, reach for a gun. His health is weak, but his spirit is fierce. The disease makes him thin and often tired, but it also makes him fearless. If he might die tomorrow, why should he be scared today? Doc drinks to ease the pain. He smokes, laughs, and walks into trouble like he is daring death to come early. In many towns, people learn quickly. If you insult Doc Holliday, you might draw your last breath stories spread. Doc is not the biggest man in the room, but he might be the most dangerous. He carries a pistol and sometimes a knife or a shotgun. He moves with a strange calm, even in the middle of a fight. Outlaws and cowboys start to respect his name, or fear it. One day, Doc meets a man who will change his life. Wyatt Earp. Wyatt is a lawman, strong and serious. Doc is sickly, sharp-tongued, and wild. They should not fit together, and yet they become close friends. Maybe Wyatt sees that Doc, under all the anger and jokes, is loyal. Maybe Doc sees that Wyatt is one of the few men who never treats him as weak. Whatever the reason, they form a bond that will carry them into gunfire side by side. When Wyatt is in danger, Doc helps. When Doc is in trouble, Wyatt stands with him. They move from town to town, from Dodge City to Tombstone, their names growing larger in every story told around every campfire. The most famous day in Doc Holliday's life comes in Tombstone, Arizona. In 1881, Tombstone is a booming silver town, full of money, whiskey, and trouble. Two groups hate each other, the Earp brothers and their friends. In a loose group of cowboys and outlaws, threats fly in the streets, fights break out in bars. Everyone knows a big clash is coming. People whisper names: Doc Holliday, the ARPs, the cowboys. Someone is going to die. Then, on October 26th, it happens. Wyatt and his brothers, Virgil and Morgan, walk down a dusty lot near the OK Corral. Doc Holliday walks with him, a shotgun hidden under his coat. The cowboys are waiting, guns on hips, tempers hot. The air feels tight, like it might snap. Voices rise. Throw up your hands, I want your guns. No one really knows who fires first, but once the first shot rings out, everything explodes. Doc moves fast, his sickness forgotten for a moment. He steps into the storm of gunfire, shotgun blasting, then switching to a pistol. Bullets scream through the smoke. Men fall. In less than a minute, it is over. 3 cowboys lie dead. Doc stands, breathing hard, his thin body shaking, but alive. From that day on, Doc Holliday's name is tied forever to the gunfight at the OK Corral. Some call him a hero, others call him a killer, but no one calls him afraid. After Tombstone, life does not become easier. The law comes after the IARPs and their friends. Revenge killings follow. Doc keeps coughing. His body grows weaker. He spends time in hotels and health resorts, trying to ease his pain in warm springs and quiet rooms. But even as his strength fades, his spirit stays sharp. He jokes darkly about his fate. He once said, "This is funny," when he saw his bare feet at the end of his deathbed, knowing he always thought he would die with his boots on. In 1887, in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, Doc Holliday finally loses. The long fight with his disease. No gun, no saloon, no showdown. Just a thin man in a small room, breathing his last. He is only 36 years old. Doc Holliday's story is powerful because it is not just about shooting and gambling. It is about a man who knows his time is short and decides to live with fire instead of fear. He is a dentist who becomes a gunfighter, a sick man who walks into the most dangerous places, a loyal friend who stands beside Wyatt Earp when the world explodes around him. He is proof that sometimes the bravest people are not the strongest or the healthiest. They are the ones who look at their own death and still choose to stand, fight, and live their own way until the very end. Dust lifts under slow, steady boots. A tall man in a long coat walks down the main street of a frontier town. His hat is low, his jaw is tight, and his hand rests close to his gun, but not on it. This is Wyatt Earp. To some, he is a hero. To others, a cold, dangerous man. But no one ever calls him weak. Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp is born in 1848 in Illinois. He grows up in a big family with brothers who will later ride beside him into history: Virgil, Morgan, and James. As a boy, Wyatt learns hard work on farms and in small towns. He helps his father, moves often, and watches the world change as America pushes west. He hears stories about gold, open land, and wild new places where a man can start fresh. If he is brave enough, when he is young, Wyatt tries normal jobs. He works as a wagon driver. He helps with railroad work. He does whatever he can to earn money, but the pull of the frontier is strong and trouble always seems near. Wyatt is not perfect. At times, he gets into fights and legal problems. He faces charges, loses things, moves on. These rough years shape him. They teach him how fast life can turn bad, and how important it is to stand strong when danger comes. In the 1870s, Wyatt's life changes direction when he becomes a lawman. He works in places like Wichita and later Dodge City, Kansas, one of the wildest cow towns in the West. Dodge City is full of noise and danger. Cowboys ride in from long cattle drives with pockets full of pay. They drink, gamble, and fight in crowded saloons. Guns flash in the night. Knives are drawn over small insults. The town needs men who will not run, men who will step into the middle of a furious drunken crowd and bring order. Wyatt Earp becomes that man. He is not the fastest gun in the West, but he is known for something else. He does not hesitate. When trouble breaks out, Wyatt moves straight toward it. He tells men to hand over their guns. If they refuse, he hits hard and fast, sometimes with his fists, sometimes with his pistol held like a club. He becomes famous for his cool head and strong nerve. In Dodge City, Wyatt meets others who will become legends too. Bat Masterson, a fellow lawman. And in time, through his travels, he grows close to Doc Holliday, the sick but deadly gambler. Wyatt and Doc are different in many ways, but they share something important. They are loyal to the people they call friends. After Dodge, Wyatt moves. Again, chasing new chances, he and his brothers head to Tombstone, Arizona, a booming silver mining town. Tombstone is rich, fast, and dangerous. Money flows, and so does whiskey. The URP brothers Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan try to set up a new life. They buy interests in saloons and mines. Virgil becomes a lawman there, and Wyatt supports him. But Tombstone already belongs, in some ways, to another group: the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a loose band of ranchers, thieves, and gunmen. Names like Ike Clanton, Billy Clanton, and the McClory brothers float through town with trouble on their backs. They clash with the Earps over crimes, politics, and control of the area. Tension grows. Harsh words fly. Threats are made in saloons and streets. Everyone can feel something big coming. On October 26, 1881, the pressure finally breaks. Wyatt Earp, his brothers Virgil and Morgan, and Doc Holliday walk down a narrow space near the OK Corral. Virgil is the acting lawman. They say they are going to disarm the cowboys, who are gathered with guns. The air is tight, dust twists in the wind. People watch from windows and doorways, holding their breath. The two groups face each other, voices raise. Commands are shouted. Then gunfire in about half a minute. The fight is over. The gunfight at the OK Corral is short, loud, and deadly. When the smoke clears, Billy Clanton and Tom and Frank McClory are dead. Virgil and Morgan Earp are wounded. Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp are still standing. Some swear the Earps were brave lawmen doing their duty. Others claim they were killers looking for a fight. The town splits in opinion. The legend of Wyatt Earp is born from this moment, but it also brings him great pain. Revenge comes soon. Months later, Virgil was ambushed and badly hurt. Morgan is shot and killed while playing billiards. For Wyatt, something inside Hardin's. He decides that simply wearing a badge is not enough anymore. He forms a small posse and begins what people will later call the Earp vendetta. Wyatt and his men ride after those they believe responsible for attacking his brothers. They track them across the rough country, into canyons and desert hills. Reports tell of sudden attacks, quick gunfights, and men shot down near railroads and hideouts. In this period, Wyatt Earp stops trying to be just a lawman. He becomes a hunter, a man answering blood with blood. Soon, the land around Tombstone is too hot for him. He leaves Arizona behind and moves through different towns and states, searching for new chances in quieter places. In his later years, Wyatt changes again. He tries mining, gambling, and small business deals. He lives for a time in places like California. The West slowly changes around him. The wild frontier turns into settled towns and growing cities. Wyatt is not rich. He is not always welcomed, but younger people seek him out. Writers and movie men ask him for stories. They listen as he talks about Dodge City, Tombstone, and that day at the OK Corral. Bit by bit, his image grows. Some paint him as the perfect lawman, almost spotless. Others dig into his past and say he was tougher, darker, and more complex than the clean legend suggests. The truth is likely somewhere in between. Wyatt Earp dies in 1929 in Los Angeles, far from the dust and gunsmoke of the old frontier. He dies in a world with cars, electric lights, and early movies. Many of the wild towns he once knew are now quiet or gone, but his name remains. Wyatt Earp's story stands because it is not simple. He is not just good or bad. He is a man who makes hard choices in hard times, a man who shows courage, loyalty, anger, and sometimes cold judgment. In the legend of the Wild West, Wyatt Earp becomes the symbol of the man who stands in the street when everyone else steps aside, the one who walks into danger with steady eyes and decides, in that silent second before the first shot, that he will not be the one to fall. The saloon is loud. Piano music fights with shouting voices. Glasses slam. Laughter flashes like lightning. Then the doors swing open. A tall man steps inside, wearing a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat. His hair is long, his mustache thick, and, at his sides, hang two ivory-handled pistols, heads turn. Voices drop. Everyone knows that face. This is Wild Bill Hickok, the first true gunfighter legend of the Wild West. James Butler Hickok, later called Wild Bill, is born in 1837 in Illinois. As a boy, he grows up in a big, busy family. His home is a stop on the Underground Railroad, helping enslaved people. Escape to freedom, danger comes early into his life, and courage becomes normal. Young Hickok loves the outdoors. He learns to shoot, to ride, to hunt. He is quick with his hands and sharp with his eyes. He is also restless. The quiet farm life cannot hold him for long. When he is still a young man, he leaves home and heads west. The frontier is calling. Out on the frontier, Hickok works many jobs. He becomes a stagecoach driver. He serves as a scout. He rides as a soldier and lawman. Everywhere he goes, trouble seems to find him. In one early story, at a place called Rock Creek Station, a group of men comes for him. There are angry words, threats, guns. When it is over, several of them are dead, and stories spread that Hickok took them all down alone. The truth is blurred by time and tall tales. But one thing is clear. From that moment on, Wild Bill is known. As a man you do not want to face with a gun, Wild Bill has something other men do not. It is not just skill. It is style. He wears his hair long, like a showman. He dresses sharp, often in fancy coats. He carries 2 pistols with the handles turned forward so he can draw them in a smooth, crossing motion. He moves calmly, even when danger is close. His slow walk and steady stare make people nervous. Stories grow around him like tall grass in summer. Newspapers begin to write about him. Writers love his look, his voice, his courage. Some stories are true. Some are half true. Some are made bigger for drama. But every story has the same heart. Wild Bill Hickok is a man who keeps his nerve when others lose theirs. In towns like Hays City and Abilene, Kansas, Hickok wears a badge as a marshal. His job is to keep order in places filled with cowboys, gamblers, drifters, and drunk men with guns. Abilene is wild. Cattle drives bring in men who have spent weeks on the trail. They pour into saloons, eager to drink, fight, and gamble. The streets are crowded with noise and danger. Wild Bill walks those streets like he owns them. But he is not careless. He knows each shadow could hide a gun. As marshal, he has one rule. No one is above the law when he is in town. When trouble starts, he does not shout. He does not wave his arms. He simply moves forward, hand near his gun, eyes steady. Many times, the sight of him is enough to end a fight. Men look at his calm face and remember their stories. They think twice. They back down. But not always. There are gunfights. Quick, deadly moments where Hickok draws his pistols and fires with deadly aim. He does not waste bullets. He does not fire wild. One of the most famous stories tells of a gunfight in the street, man against man, in front of everyone. 2 men stand facing each other. People watch from windows. The town holds its breath. 2 shots echo. Only one man stays standing. That man is Wild Bill Hickok. Yet being deadly has a cost. Enemies pile up. Men feel small beside him, and some want to prove they are braver, faster, stronger. Hickok also has weaknesses. He loves to gamble. He likes drink. His life is hot and fast, and his nerves carry deep scars from war and violence. His eyesight begins to fail over time, making the world around him less sharp. He leaves Abilene, moves from job to job, and finally ends up in a rough mining camp in the Dakota Territory, a place called Deadwood. Deadwood is a classic boomtown, built on gold and greed. Tents and shacks crowd the hills. Saloons and gambling halls roar with noise every night. It is the perfect place for a gambler like Wild Bill. But by now, he is older. His hair is still long, his mustache still proud, but his eyes strain to see the cards. He knows he is not as quick as he once was. Still, he sits at the tables, playing poker, trying to make a living in the only way he truly understands. One small detail of his habits is famous. He likes to sit with his back to the wall. He does not trust having anyone behind him. A man with as many enemies as Hickok has good reason to be careful. But on one unlucky day, in 1876, all the safe seats are taken. He has no choice. He sits with his back to the room, cards in hand. Eyes on the table. Behind him, a man named Jack McCall walks in. McCall has his own anger, his own pride, and his own gun. He steps up close. He raises his pistol. In a flash, a shot cracks through the crowded saloon. Wild Bill Hickok slumps forward, dead in his chair. He never gets the chance to turn around, to draw, to fight, to show the skill that made him famous. The cards in his hand become legend. 2 black aces, 2 black eights. People later call it the dead man's hand. Whether he truly held those exact cards or not, the image sticks forever. The greatest gunfighter of his time, killed from behind with no warning. Wild Bill Hickok's story is the story of the first superstar of the Wild West. He is part lawman, part killer, part showman, part victim of his own legend. He shows how a man can become larger than life while still being deeply human, flawed, tired, and finally caught with his guard down. In the long memory of the frontier, many gunfighters come and go. But the picture of a tall man with long hair, ivory-handled pistols, and cold, calm eyes, walking into a smoky saloon while everyone else goes quiet. That picture will always have one name: Wild Bill Hickok. The train whistle cries in the distance. Hooves thud against hard, dry ground. A man in a bowler hat walks slowly down a dusty street, cane in one hand, pistol at his side. His name is Bat Masterson. He does not look wild like other gunfighters. No long hair, no crazy eyes. He looks calm, he looks in control. But under that calm face lives a man who has seen blood, war, and more than one man die at the end of a gun. Bartholomew Bat Masterson is born in 1853 in Canada to a large family that later moves to Kansas. He grows up on the open plains, where the sky is huge and danger is never far. He learns to ride, to shoot, and to work hard. Like many young men of his time, he dreams of adventure. As a teenager, Bat and his brothers leave home to become buffalo hunters. The Great Plains are full of buffalo herds, and hunters earn money selling hides. But the work is harsh. Wind, heat, cold nights, and the constant threat of attack turn boys into men quickly. Out on the plains, Bat learns something important about himself. He keeps his head cool when things go bad. In one famous moment, he takes part in a battle at a place called Adobe Walls, where hunters and native warriors clash in a fierce fight. Bullets whistle through the air. Men shout and fall. Bat survives, calm under pressure, and that calm will follow him for the rest of his life. After years of hunting, Bat drifts toward the booming cow towns of the frontier. One of the wildest is Dodge City, Kansas. Dodge City is loud, rough, and full of life. Cattle drives bring in cowboys who are dusty, drunk, and ready to blow off steam. Saloons glow with lamplight and music. Gunshots in the night are not rare, they are normal. The town needs lawmen who will not run when trouble comes. Bat Masterson becomes one of those men. He first works as a deputy, then later is elected sheriff of Ford County. The job is not safe. It means going face to face with angry armed men almost every day. But Bat has something many others do not have. He thinks before he acts. Where another man might rush into a fight, Bat studies the room. He looks at where people stand, where the exits are, who is ready to shoot. He moves carefully, like a chess player, always thinking a few moves ahead. One thing that makes Bat Masterson different from many other gunfighters is this: he does not enjoy killing. He is not out looking for glory. He does not brag about his gun skill. Many times, he uses his cane or his fists to stop a fight instead of his pistol. Imagine a noisy saloon. Two men are shouting, shoving each other, hands drifting toward their belts. Everyone watches, waiting for blood. The doors swing open. Bat Masterson steps in with his calm eyes and easy walk. He raises his cane, maybe taps it on the bar, maybe rests it on one man's shoulder. Take it easy. His voice is low but firm. Most of the time, that is enough, because by now, everyone knows if Bat has to pull his gun, he'll not miss. Still, violence finds him. In one early gunfight, Bat is helping a friend in a land dispute. Words turn hot, guns are drawn. Shots blast through the dry air. When it ends, Bat has a wound in his leg and one man is dead. He does not collapse. He does not scream. He treats the injury and walks with a cane afterward, which becomes part of his look. Stories spread. Cowboys and gamblers whisper that Sheriff Masterson is fast, accurate, and unshakable. Some men test him anyway. They learn the hard way that calm does not mean weak. But Bat Masterson is not just a gun and a badge. He is also a gambler, a man who enjoys cards, dice, and the thrill of the game. He spends time in saloons not just to keep the peace, but also to enjoy the lively world of the frontier nights in Dodge City. He works beside other famous names, like Wyatt Earp. They walk the same streets, fight some of the same battles, and face down some of the same outlaws. Over time, though the West changes, the wild cow towns start to settle. Railroads, families, and new laws calm what used to be chaos. Bat feels the change coming. He moves on, chasing new chances in other towns. Trying his luck in business and gambling, what makes his story special is what happens next. Many gunfighters die young in dusty streets, shot in the back, drunk in a saloon, caught in a midnight ambush. Bat Masterson does not. He does something almost shocking for a man with his past. He moves to the east, to the big, modern city of New York. In New York, there are no herds of cattle, no wooden sidewalks lined with hitching posts. There are streetcars, crowds, and tall buildings. Yet Bat adapts. He takes a job that sounds almost strange when you think about his past life. He becomes a sports writer and columnist for a newspaper. Instead of chasing outlaws, he now chases stories. He writes about boxing matches and fighters. He sits ringside instead of by the saloon door. He uses a pen instead of a pistol. The same sharp eyes that once watched their room for danger now study fighters in the ring, watching their style, their courage, their heart. He writes with respect for toughness, but also with the experience of someone who knows what real danger looks like. In New York, people sometimes recognize him. A visitor might stare and say, "Is that really Bat Masterson, the famous sheriff from the Old West?" The older Bat just smiles. He is heavier now, more settled, but the calm, watchful look is still there in his eyes. He has lived through buffalo hunts, frontier wars, midnight gunfights, and wild cow towns, and somehow found his way to a desk in a bright, busy city. Bat Masterson dies in 1921, not in the dust and noise of a frontier street, but sitting at his desk in a newspaper office, working, a pencil in his hand, paper in front of him, no gunfight, no crowd, just quiet. A peaceful end. His life proves something powerful. A man does not have to be swallowed by violence, even if his youth is full of it. He can change, he can grow, he can put the gun down and pick up a different tool. Bat Masterson is remembered as a cool-headed gunman, yes, but also as a man who found a way to walk out of the Wild West and into a new world without losing himself. In a time when many gunfighters ended in tragedy, Bat's story stands like a calm voice in a storm saying, "You can survive. You can move on. You can write a new ending for your own legend." The wind cuts across the dry New Mexico plain. A young rider leans low over his horse, hat pulled down, eyes bright and sharp. He is laughing. He is running from danger. He is running toward it. His name is Billy the Kid, and he is not yet a man, but already an outlaw. Billy the Kid is not born with that name. He comes into the world as Henry McCarty, sometime around 1859, likely in New York. His father dies when he is young. His mother moves from place to place, searching for a better life. They travel west. They end up in rough towns and hard streets. Henry is small, skinny, and quiet, but he has sharp eyes and a quick smile. His mother, Catherine, does what she can. She remarries. She pushes forward, even when sickness eats away at her. Henry loves her deeply. She is his one safe place in a world that never sits still. Then as he becomes a teenager, his mother dies of illness. Just like that, the last piece of stability in his life is gone. He is alone, poor, young, and the world around him is full of temptation, guns, and men who are not patient with hungry boys. The first steps toward his outlaw life are small. He steals food, he takes clothes from a laundry, a joke, a dare, a little crime. Then it grows. He falls in with rough company. He learns that quick hands and a fearless grin can get him far. He is arrested for the first time while still a teenager. He escapes by climbing up a chimney and running into the dark. Each bad choice opens the door to a worse one. Each escape makes him a little bolder. Henry starts using different names. One of them is William H. Bonney. People shorten it. Soon, they call him simply Billy. And Billy is fast, fast with a smile. Fast with a joke. Fast with a gun. New Mexico territory in those days is not peaceful. Ranchers, store owners, and powerful businessmen fight for land and money. Corruption is everywhere. Sheriffs and judges are pulled like strings by the men with the most power in this boiling mix. A conflict breaks out that history will call the Lincoln County War. On one side, there is a group of ranchers and merchants tied to the old power. On the other, a new partnership tries to challenge him. Billy ends up riding with the second group, sometimes called the Regulators. They believe they are fighting the unfair control of the old bosses. Maybe Billy feels, for a time, that he is on the right side. Maybe he just sees a place to belong. The Lincoln County War is not a clean war. It is full of ambushes, burning buildings, and sudden gunfights. Men die in the street, in fields, behind walls. Billy proves himself in these fights. He rides hard, shoots quick, and shows no fear. Stories spread. He can fire a gun with both hands. He can shoot from a horse. He never misses. Some people begin to paint him as a kind of hero, a young fighter standing up against corrupt power. Others see only a dangerous killer. Both sides have blood on their hands. Both sides claim justice. In the middle of it stands Billy, laughing one moment, killing the next. As the war winds down, Billy's life does not calm. He is wanted for several killings. Rewards are posted for him. Yet he still walks into towns, still dances at fiestas, still flirts and jokes like he has all the time in the world. This is one of the strangest parts of his story. He is famous and hunted, but he does not hide like a scared animal. He moves in and out of towns where everyone knows his face. People who meet him are surprised. Many say he is polite. He is not loud or cruel. He has bright blue eyes and a youthful, almost boyish look. It is hard for them to believe this thin, smiling kid is the same Billy the Kid in the wanted posters. But when guns come out, there is no doubt the law finally begins to close in. A man named Pat Garrett, who once knew Billy, becomes sheriff. He is given the job of cleaning up the territory, and that means catching the kid. After several chases and close calls, Garrett captures Billy. Billy is put on trial for murder and sentenced to hang. For a moment, it looks like the legend will end the usual way, with a rope in a small town and a quiet, early grave. But Billy is not done. On the day he is being held in the Lincoln County Jail, guarded by 2 deputies. Billy sees a chance. In a sudden burst of speed and daring, he grabs a gun. He kills one guard. He then takes a shotgun and kills the other. The sound of the blasts shake the building. People watch in shock as Billy, still in chains, fights his way to freedom. He climbs onto the roof. He laughs down at the town. He steals a horse and rides out, calling to the people below that he will see them again. This escape is one of the boldest in Wild West history. It cements his legend. Billy the Kid, the outlaw who cannot be held. For a short time, he is free again, but the circle is tightening. He hides in friendly houses. He moves by night. He still hopes, in some way, for a pardon, a deal, a way to stop running. But Pat Garrett does not give up. On a dark night in July 1881, Garrett hears that Billy may be staying at a friend's house. Garrett goes there and waits in the shadows. Billy, thin and tired but still proud, walks into the dark room, not knowing Garrett is inside. He senses another presence and calls out softly in Spanish, "Quayanis." Who is it? A shot. Answers. Billy the Kid falls. He is around 21 years old. No long final speech, No grand last stand in the street, just a single shot in a dark house, ending the short, bright, violent life of a boy who became a myth. Billy the Kid's story is more than guns and wanted posters. It is a story of a kid who lost his parents, who grew up in a world with little mercy, who learned that a quick smile and a quick trigger could get him through the next day, until they couldn't. Some people remember him as a hero. Some call him a cold killer. Maybe he was a little of both. What is certain is this: in the lonely spaces of the Wild West, where law was thin and life was cheap, a small laughing boy named Henry became Billy the Kid, one of the most famous outlaws who ever rode under an open sky. Dawn creeps over the high plains of Wyoming. The grass is silver with cold. On a lonely hill, a man lies on his stomach, rifle steady, one eye closed. He waits, he watches. He is Tom Horn. To some, he is a brave scout. To others, a cold killer. He will live most of his life somewhere in between. Tom Horn is born in 1860 in Missouri, into a big, poor farming family. Life is hard from the start. There are always chores, always work, never enough comfort. As a boy, Tom does not talk much. He prefers being alone, out in the open fields, watching the sky, listening to the wind. He learns to ride horses early. He learns to track animals, read sign, and handle a gun. Home is not a gentle place. His father is strict, sometimes harsh. Tom feels pushed, tested, and often angry. When he is still young, he decides he has had enough. He leaves home and heads west. Chasing the wild freedom he has heard about in stories, the frontier gives him what he wants and more than he expects. Tom works first as a teamster, driving wagons. Then he becomes a scout and interpreter for the U.S. Army during the Indian Wars. He learns native languages. He rides between cultures, carrying messages, tracking enemies, and guiding soldiers. In rough country, Tom proves useful. He is calm, under stress. He can follow faint tracks over rock and brush. He can find water where others see only dust. He sees death up close. He sees villages burned, people killed, land taken. He watches as the old way of life on the plains is crushed by the advance of the United States. War shapes him. It makes him harder, quieter, more used to violence. Later, Tom works for the Pinkerton Detective Agency, chasing train robbers and outlaws. He travels far, from Colorado to Arizona and beyond, hunting men who think they can vanish into the West. Sometimes he brings them in alive. Sometimes, not. Stories grow around him. Tom Horn, the man who can track anyone, the man who can find a trail where others see nothing. Eventually, the war is slow. The big outlaws are caught or killed. The frontier itself starts to change, but there is still one kind of job that needs a man like Tom Horn. Ranchers, especially big cattle owners, have enemies. Smaller ranchers and homesteaders fence land, claim water, and sometimes, yes, steal cattle. To the big men, this is a threat to their power and money. They want someone to send a message in blood. Tom Horn becomes a range detective. It sounds almost clean, like a man solving puzzles. But the work is often darker. He is paid to scare people, and sometimes to kill them. The stories say he will ride quietly into an area, ask questions, watch carefully. If he believes someone is a rustler or a troublemaker, he will wait in hiding. Then, from far away with a rifle, he will end their life. No warning, no duel in the street, just a shot from the shadows. Tom is proud of his skill. He once claims that no man he aims at ever gets away. He sees himself as a professional doing a job in a rough land. But each shot, each body left in the dust, makes more enemies and plants more seeds of hate. By the late 1890s and early 1900s, places like Wyoming and Colorado are changing. Families move in. building homes and small farms. They do not want to bow to big cattle barons. They want their own chance. Tension grows between small ranchers and big cattle companies. Cattle get cut loose, fence lines are cut, words become threats, threats become blood. In 1901, near Iron Mountain, Wyoming, a 14-year-old boy named Willie Nickel is shot and killed while tending his family's sheep. It is a brutal, shocking act. A child, alone on the range, gunned down. People are outraged. They look for someone to blame. Whispers rise. Tom Horn. Soon after, Tom is drunk in a barnyard when he talks to a man named Joe Leffers, a lawman. They share drinks. They talk. Loosely. Later, Leffers claims that Tom confessed to the killing of Willie Nickel, that he bragged about it while drunk. Tom says his words were twisted, that he never meant it as a confession. He is arrested and put on trial. The courtroom in Cheyenne fills with people. Some believe Tom is a cold-blooded killer who finally went too far, even for the cattlemen who hired him. Others think he is being used as a convenient scapegoat, a single man to blame for a larger war between rich and poor, big ranchers and small farmers. The evidence is thin in some places, strong in others. The trial is heated. Newspapers write about it with excitement. In the end, the jury finds Tom Horn guilty of murder. He is sentenced to hang, waiting for his execution. Tom shows the same quiet face he wore on the plains. He does not cry or beg. He reads. He talks with visitors. He even orders a new suit for his hanging day, wanting to look sharp for his last moment. On the morning of November 20th, 1903, he walks calmly to the gallows. The town watches. Some feel justice is being done. Others feel something more complicated, like the old Wild West itself is being put to death. The trapdoor opens. Tom Horn's life ends. To this day, people argue about him. Was he truly the one who killed Willie Nickel? Was he a monster shaped by a violent time? Or was he a hard, damaged man used by powerful ranchers, then discarded when things went too far? What is clear is this: Tom Horn lived his life in the gray space between law and lawless. He was a skilled scout, interpreter, and tracker, and slash, also a man who chose to let his rifle speak for money. He reminds us that the Wild West was not just brave sheriffs and colorful outlaws. It was also secret deals, hired guns, and silent shots from distant hills, where a man like Tom Horn could lie in the grass eye against the sight and decide, with a single pull of the trigger, who lived and who died. The trees are still in the heat of an Arizona afternoon. Cicadas buzz in the dry air. A man sits alone in a shaded grove, back against a tree, hat pulled low. His name is Johnny Ringo. A pistol rests near his hand. His face is tired. His eyes look far away at things no one else can see. To some, he is just another outlaw. To others, a dark legend. Johnny Ringo is born in 1850 in Indiana. He grows up in a family that keeps moving, chasing new chances, new land, new hope. The road leads them south and west, closer to the rough edge of the frontier. As a boy, John is quiet and watchful. He learns to ride, to handle a gun, to live with risk. But he also sees sorrow early in life-death in the family, broken plans. The hard truth that the world is not soft or fair. These early wounds sink deep. They will follow him long after he becomes a man. The Ringo family finally settles in Texas. Texas in those days is a place of cattle, open land, and fierce tempers. Fights over land and power are common. Neighbors can turn into enemies in a single night. Johnny grows into a tall, lean young man with sharp features and intense eyes. He is not loud like some cowboys. He talks quietly, but his words are sharp. People notice his intelligence. Some say he reads books and speaks clearly, almost like an educated gentleman. But under the cool surface, his anger burns. In the 1870s, a violent conflict called the Mason County War breaks out in Texas. It is a harsh feud between German settlers and local ranchers. Accusations of cattle theft, unfair justice, and revenge spin out of control. Johnny sides with the ranchers, blood is spilled, men are ambushed and killed. The law is weak and often picks a side instead of staying fair. During this time, Ringo's name begins to appear in newspapers and whispered stories. Some say he is quick with a gun. Some say he is part of lynchings and raids. Others claim he is only doing what many young men do in lawless, angry times, fighting for his people. Whatever the full truth, one thing is sure. By the time the feud burns out, Johnny Ringo is marked. The law is watching. Enemies are watching. Staying in Texas becomes too dangerous, so he drifts farther west. Johnny crosses into New Mexico, then on into Arizona territory. He drinks, he works as a cowboy, he gambles, he rides from camp to camp, town to town, never staying in one place too long a time. He falls in with a loose group of cowboys and rustlers operating around Tombstone, Arizona, the same area where the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday will make their names. These cowboys are not just simple ranch hands. Many are involved in cattle theft, smuggling, and stagecoach robberies. They bring Mexican cattle across the border and sell them for profit. The law in the area is thin and often crooked. Sheriffs and ranchers choose sides, and old grudges grow. Like thorns, Johnny Ringo becomes known as one of the more dangerous men in this circle. He is said to be quick with a gun and quicker with his temper, especially when drinking. Yet people also see another side, a man who can be calm, thoughtful, even charming. A man who can quote from books, who carries sadness in his eyes. As tension grows in Tombstone between the Earps and the cowboys, Ringo's name floats near many stories. He is close to men like Ike Clanton and Curly Bill Brocious, who hate the ERPs and their friends. Some legends say Johnny has a special rivalry with Doc Holliday. It is easy for storytellers to imagine Doc, the sick, sharp-tongued gambler on one side, Ringo, the dark, educated gunman on the other. There are tales of the two men facing off in town, trading words, hands near their guns, ready to kill. In some stories, they almost duel, only to be stopped at the last second. No one can prove every detail, and time blurs the truth. But one thing is clear. Ringo is part of the cowboy faction. At the same time, the ARPs are fighting for control of the law in Tombstone. When the famous gunfight at the OK Corral explodes, Ringo is not there. But he is there after, during the long trail of revenge and counter-revenge. Friends of his die, friends of the ARPs die. The whole territory feels like a powder keg. Johnny Ringo is deep in it, whether he wants to be or not. Slowly, the wildfire of Tombstone begins to burn down. The IRPs leave, posses ride. Some cowboys end up dead or disappeared. Ringo does not find peace. He drinks more. He wanders. The weight of all he has seen and done presses on him. By 1882, he is in a bad place, emotionally and physically. He is often drunk, often depressed. He talks about feeling lost, about his life going nowhere. Some people later say he spoke of death like it was already walking beside him. In July of that year, Johnny Ringo rides alone into the wooded canyons and hills west of Tombstone. He stops in a quiet place near what will later be known as Johnny Ringo Canyon, among cottonwood trees and rocky slopes. A few days later, a group finds him. He is sitting with his back against a tree. His revolver is nearby. There is a single bullet wound to his head. The sheriff rules it a suicide. Maybe he put the gun to his own temple in a moment of drunken despair. Maybe the weight of his past, his losses, and his guilt finally broke him. But not everyone believes that. Some whispered that he was murdered, killed by someone who wanted revenge, or feared what he might say. Others build wild stories, even pulling in the names of Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp, imagining secret rides and midnight ambushes. No solid proof ever appears. Johnny Ringo's death remains one of the quiet mysteries of the Old West, alone in the trees. A famous gunman dies without witnesses, without a final showdown, without the crowd that legends usually require. Johnny Ringo's story is different from some of the louder gunfighters. He is not a man of big, public scenes. He is a shadow on the edge of greater events, a rider who appears, speaks softly, then vanishes again. He is a mix of intelligence and violence, calm and rage, charm and deep sadness. He shows how the frontier could twist a person. A man who might have lived a quiet life in another world becomes in a harsher place, a feared gunman with enemies on all sides. In the end, his death under the cottonwood tree says something about the Wild West that is easy to forget. Not every gunfighter dies in a blazing street battle. Sometimes, the deadliest wounds are the ones carried inside, until a man can no longer bear them, and the only sound left in the canyon is the echo of one last gunshot and the low, endless hum of the wind. Night hangs heavy over a Texas town. Lanterns burn low. A saloon piano plays a tired tune. At a card table sits a thin man with sharp eyes and a restless jaw. He watches the door, the mirror, every hand that twitches near a gun. His name is John Wesley Hardin. Some say he is the deadliest gunman in Texas. Some say he is just a killer with a quick temper and a faster draw. Both things can be true. John Wesley Hardin is born in 1853 in Texas. His father is a preacher and school teacher. The Bible is read in the home. Discipline is strict. The family believes in hard work and strong faith, but the world around them is torn by war. When John is a boy, the Civil War breaks out. He grows up hearing about battles, dead soldiers, and neighbors going off to fight. He watches the land fill with fear, anger, and revenge. When the war ends, Texas does not turn peaceful. It becomes a tense place full of old grudges and new rules. Union soldiers occupy parts of the South. Laws change. Power shifts. The air is heavy with resentment. Young John grows up in this pressure, with a quick mind and a hot temper. Hardin shows early that he is bright. He learns fast. He can read and write well. He listens to his father's sermons and can repeat verses from memory, but he also shows something darker. He does not like to be pushed. He does not like being insulted. He hates feeling weak in front of others. As a teenager, he starts carrying a gun. Once that happens, every argument has a new, deadly edge. His first killing comes when he is still very young, a boy more than a man. Different stories tell the tale in different ways, but they all share one truth. An argument becomes violence, and John pulls the trigger. A man falls dead, whether he thinks it is self-defense or not. The result is the same. Someone is dead, and John's life can never go back to what it was. From that moment on, he is on the run. The Texas of the 1870s is rough country. There are cattle drives, outlaws, ex-soldiers, and men who feel the law does not treat them fairly. Lawmen themselves are sometimes hard and cruel. John rides from place to place, trying to stay ahead of the law. But the trouble is, no matter where he goes, he seems to bring violence with him. He works as a cowboy on cattle drives. He gambles, he drinks, he argues, and his arguments often end the same way, with a hand going to his gun. Stories pile up. He fights Union soldiers. He clashes with local Texas officers. He shoots at men in saloons, on the streets, from horseback. Some stories about him grow into wild legend, like the tale that he once shot a man in a hotel room just because the man's loud snoring annoyed him. Whether that exact story is true or not, people believe it because it fits the man they think he is. Hardin himself later claims he killed dozens of men. Some say he bragged that the number was over 40. Historians doubt some of those claims, but everyone agrees on one thing. John Wesley Hardin leaves a trail of dead behind him. Yet he is not just a wild animal. He has family, he marries, he has children, he writes letters, he reads books, he sometimes shows regret and wishes things had gone differently. But his temper and his pride keep pulling him back into fights. He cannot stand being insulted. He cannot walk away easily. In a land where men carry guns and respect is tied to bravery, this is a dangerous weakness. The law of Texas, especially the famous Texas Rangers, begins to focus on him. He is too well known. Too many people want to see him caught. Year after year, he dodges them. He hides under false names, slips across borders, stays with friends and relatives. He is clever and daring. For a long time, it looks like no one will ever bring him in. But in 1877, his luck runs out. In a train in Florida, rangers and local officers finally catch him. There is a struggle. A shot is fired. But this time, John Wesley Hardin does not win. He is captured, taken back to Texas in chains, and put on trial. The courtroom is full. People want to see the face of the man whose name has haunted their state. He is found guilty of murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. For a gunfighter like Hardin, prison is a different world. The iron door is closed behind him. Inside the walls of Huntsville Prison, John Wesley Hardin experiences something new. Time. Time. To think, time to regret. Time to change or pretend to. He reads his Bible. He studies law. He works. He prays. He writes about his life, trying to explain himself, sometimes painting his killings as self-defense, as if he was always pushed first. He grows older. The young, wild cowboy becomes a middle-aged man behind bars. The outside world changes too. The frontier grows calmer. Railroads stretch across the land. New towns rise. The era of wide-open gunmen begins to fade. After many years, in the 1890s, Hardin is finally released. He has served a long sentence. He steps out of prison gates into a world that barely remembers the old feuds. A free man again, John Wesley. Hardin tries to start over. He uses the law he studied in prison. He becomes a lawyer in El Paso, Texas. It sounds almost like a joke. The famous killer now working as a man of the law. For a while, it seems like he might make it work. He takes cases, stands in court, wears a suit instead of a gun belt, but the old habits never really die. El Paso is a border town full of saloons, gambling, and fast tempers, a smaller version of the wild life he once knew. Hardin drinks again. He plays cards. He falls into arguments and messy relationships. He gets involved in local disputes that turn ugly. Once more, he carries himself with that same hard pride, the feeling that no one should cross him, that he is still the most dangerous man in the room. But time has moved on. He is no longer the sharp, deadly young gunman. He is older, slower, easier to catch off guard. On an August night in 1895, in an El Paso saloon, John Wesley Hardin stands at the bar, talking, maybe boasting, maybe complaining about his enemies, one of them being a local lawman named John. Selman steps inside. He walks quietly up behind Hardin. Without warning, he draws his pistol and fires. The bullet hits Hardin in the back of the head. He falls to the floor, dead before he can even touch his gun. No showdown in the street. No chance to draw and prove himself again. The man who once bragged of killing so many others is killed the same way many of them were, suddenly, from behind, with no chance to fight back. John Wesley Hardin's story is not a simple one of hero or villain. He is intelligent, but easily angered. Religious words fill his mouth, but violence fills his hands. He loves his family, but leaves them broken by his choices. He studies law, but lives much of his life against it. In the end, he becomes a kind of warning from the Wild West. What happens when a man lets his pride, his temper, and his gun run his life? No matter how fast you are, no matter how many times, you win. There is always one more bullet, one more enemy, one more moment when your back is turned. For John Wesley Hardin, the deadliest enemy was not just the men who hunted him. It was the anger inside him that he never learned to lay down. The church bells ring on a Sunday morning. People in clean clothes walk toward a small wooden building. They carry Bibles. They bow their heads. They sing. Among them walks a neat, quiet man in a dark suit. He does not drink. He does not smoke. He prays. His name is Jim Miller. Later, people will call him Deacon Jim and Killer Miller. James Brown Miller is born in 1860s America in the rough world of the border states. As a boy, he knows hardship early. Some stories say he loses his parents when he is very young. He is passed between relatives, between houses, between lives. When he is a teenager, a terrible event happens in his family. His grandparents are killed. Some people say Jim is involved. He is arrested, put on trial, then walks free when their court cannot prove the case. True or not, the story stays with him like a dark shadow. From a young age, death and suspicion follow Jim Miller. As he grows, Jim becomes a strange mix of things. On one side, he is religious. He goes to church. He reads the Bible. He dresses tidy and careful, with neat hair and clean clothes. He does not swear in public. People see him as polite and well-mannered. On the other side, he is drawn toward violence. The frontier in Texas and Oklahoma is still rough. Cattle, land, and power are always in dispute. Guns speak loudly. Jim learns that he is good with a gun. Not wild and flashy like some gunfighters. Careful, cold, methodical. He works for a time as a lawman in small towns, wearing a badge, keeping order. But rumors grow that, even with a badge, he is too quick to pull the trigger. Too ready to turn arguments into funerals. Sometimes he rides on the side of the law. Sometimes on the side of those who pay him in secret. Over the years, Jim Miller builds a dark business for himself. He becomes a hired killer. If someone wants a man deed arrival, a witness, a local troublemaker, Jim is willing to listen. He will sit very quiet, nod slowly, and name his price. He has rules. He prefers to use a shotgun, often at close range. He likes to catch his targets by surprise. There are no duels in the street, no fair warnings, no chance for the other man to draw. Jim also wears something unusual under his neat clothes, a steel breastplate, a metal shield under his shirt to stop bullets aimed at his chest. He walks the world believing God is on his side, and so is cold, hard steel, because he prays and acts polite. Some people cannot believe the rumors about him, because men keep ending up dead. Others are sure the rumors are true. One of the most famous stories of his life happens near the town of Ada, Oklahoma. By this time, Jim is suspected in many killings. He has enemies in Texas and beyond, but it is hard to catch him. He is careful. He often has alibis. Witnesses are afraid to speak, and he takes a job that will finally destroy him. A group of men hired Jim Miller to kill Gus Bobbitt, a well-known rancher and former lawman. They offer him a lot of money. Jim agrees. On a quiet day, Bobbitt is riding home in his buggy. His wife is with him. The land is flat and open. The air is still. From hiding, Jim waits with his shotgun. When Bobbitt comes close enough, Jim steps out, aims, and fires. The blast tears into the rancher. Bobbitt falls, badly wounded. As he lies dying, he tells people who he thinks shot him. The news spreads fast. This time, the town will not let the killer pass quietly. Soon after, Jim Miller and several men believed to be part of the murder plot are arrested. They are taken to the jail in Ada. The law is supposed to handle things. There should be a trial, witnesses, lawyers, and a judge. That is the way justice is meant to work. But the people of Ada are angry. They have heard of too many killings, too many assassins walking free. They fear that clever lawyers and weak courts will once again fail to punish a man they believe is guilty. So, one night, a group of masked Mente townspeople decide to act on their own. They break into the jail. They drag Miller and the others out into the night. Jim is calm, even now. Some say he stands straight, even as they put a rope around his neck. He is given a moment to speak. Different stories tell different last words. One version says he tells them, "Let her rip," as if daring them to finish the job. Then the mob pulls the rope. Jim Killer Miller, Deacon Jim, church-going assassin, swings from a beam in a barn, killed not by a single bullet, but by the furious judgment of a town that has had enough. There is no formal sentence, no official last prayer. It is not clean justice. It is lynching the law taken into the people's own hands. Jim Miller's story is chilling because it shows a man who can be both politely religious and coldly violent. He goes to church on Sunday and hunts men for money on Monday. He reminds us that evil does not always look wild and obvious. Sometimes it wears a suit, smiles gently, and folds its hands in prayer. He also shows how a society can break when people stop trusting the law. When courts fail, mobs rise. When justice feels weak, rage takes over. The end is often as bloody and cruel as the crimes that started it. And now, all 10 writers of our story stand together in your mind. Bass Reeves, born a slave, riding as a lawman for justice. Doc Holliday, sick and coughing, but brave in every gunfight. Wyatt Earp, the man who would not step aside. Wild Bill Hickok, the first famous gunfighter, shot in the back. Bat Masterson, who laid down his gun and picked up a pen. Billy the Kid, the laughing boy who became an outlaw legend. Tom Horn, the quiet scout turned hired rifle. Johnny Ringo, the educated, haunted gunman under the cottonwood tree. John Wesley Hardin, the angry preacher's son who could not escape his temper. Jim Killer Miller, the praying assassin who met a rope in a barn. Each one lived by the gun in a different way. Some fought for the law, some fought against it. Some tried to walk between, but in the end, almost all of them faced the same truth. If you live in a world where guns answer every problem, sooner or later, the gun answers you. For your viewers, this final part can close with a slow, steady voice. These are the real lives behind the legends. Not movie heroes, not simple villains, just men shaped by a hard land and hard choices. The Wild West is gone now, but the lessons are not. Power without justice becomes cruelty. Anger without control becomes tragedy. And a gun, in any century, is never just a tool. It is a decision, a path, a weight. The question is not who was the deadliest gunfighter. The question is, what kind of person do we become? When we let violence decide who we are,